Letitia James is now officially in the hot seat. Subpoenas are being issued out of the court there, the Eastern Court in Virginia. We have learned in the alleged fraud mortgage case. So it's rather remarkable, like this twist of fate when you think about it, because what this carries with it is some serious penalties for one Letitia James. I mean, she could actually find herself in federal prison for up to 30 years if she's convicted of what she is being accused of doing. As you recall, there's this house in Virginia Norfolk, Virginia, that she said she was going to use as a primary residence. However, she was Attorney General of New York at the time, so there's no way she could possibly have it as her primary residence. But when you apply for a federal housing loan like that, you need to make sure you're squeaky clean, because otherwise you could be accused of, and she's being accused of, defrauding the federal government, which comes with it some serious mega penalties. So again, the Eastern Court there in Virginia issuing these grand jury subpoenas. This is a big deal for one Letitia James. Just to sort of give some perspective on how big a deal. You heard me say 30 years in prison is what it carries up to, because false statements to obtain a federally insured loan is a big no-no, as well as false statements to the government, period. So in this case, she's trying to obtain the loan. She made false statements, and it comes with it none other than a 30-year penalty. So 30 years in prison, possibly, as a result of all of this. Don't forget, the FHA loans, I should point out, they're secured and issued by the federal government. So lying on one of those loan applications is a big deal, especially about your primary residence, right? Because in theory, if it's your primary residence, it would get a better mortgage rate. Typically, it always does, because the thinking is that you would pay that loan off first. And so this is a federal offense. The FHA requires the property to be the borrower's primary residence within 60 days of closing. So, Leticia, honey, baby, I mean, you're looking at 30 years in jail. This is unbelievable. And like the irony of it all, right? Because she was going after Donald Trump for something sort of similar, except that one was a private transaction. He wasn't actually using federal funds, and she was trying to stuff, the square peg in the round hole, trying to somehow come up with a way to get him. And the judges that heard this at the appellate court are like, yeah, but where's the victim? I mean, where is your victim here? This is a private transaction between two people, and the banker said they'd do it again all day long, right? Everybody got paid back. This is the house in question. This was supposed to be the principal residence there in Norfolk, Virginia, but the Eastern District of Virginia Court is like, well, we got to look at this, right? We got to look at this, because William Pulte is asking the DOJ to look at it. Pam Bondi is taking the case forward. We know Kash Patel has opened an FBI investigation. And so now the chickens are effectively coming home to roost. Daily Caller made a little visit to the house in question, and they were looking to see if it really was Letitia's primary residence, which obviously we know it's not, because she lives in New York. But that didn't stop them from knocking on some doors. You remember this?
Hi there. I'm a reporter with the Daily Caller News Foundation.
Goodbye. You're trespassing.
I'm sorry.
Trespassing. My kids are out here.
I understand. We mean no trouble. We're just curious who the occupants of the home are,
Don't worry about who's occupants. That's none of your business.
Well, there are connections. There are connections to New York Attorney General Letitia James.
That doesn't matter. You're trespassing.
Are you related to Letitia James?
Do you know her?
You're trespassing. Go in the house.
Do you know Letitia James? No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you, ma'am.
Don't come up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
It's gonna be fine.
You will. Be well.
Okay, so they get chased out of the neighborhood. But, this is, again, I think that the irony should not be lost here. She went after Donald Trump for sort of a similar thing, a mortgage violation. Maybe it was on her head or something. Maybe she's got a guilty conscience. Maybe she knew that she shouldn't have done what she did. Of course she should have known, for goodness sakes. The woman is the Attorney General of the state of New York. The woman is an attorney. And by the way, this isn't the end of it, right? Because there's also the case where they may be going after her in federal court in New York, although maybe the Eastern District of Virginia will suffice in this case. By the way, that court is known to kind of cycle through these things pretty quickly. So perhaps that's one of the reasons why they brought that case there. Also, proximity-wise, it's good. And also, it's the house in Virginia that she was trying to say that was her primary residence. In this particular case, if you look at the screen, I'm showing you a picture of a brownstone New York Post took this photo, and basically in this particular one, and it's additional, if you would, there seems to be a repeat pattern, dare I say. In the brownstone, she was also getting a special deal on a loan, allegedly, because it was a certain number of levels. In this case, you needed 4 levels in order to get the special federal loan, and she seems to have had 5 levels there. So she may have fudged the documentation, at least that's what's being alleged, in order to say she had 4. And so that, again, would be a total violation of federal law, and you're lying at that point to the federal government. And then there's the issue, if you go back all the way to 1983, and this is how she managed to get this loan for her father, by saying that she was his wife and therefore had income, etc. So there seems to be a pattern here, but I think the bottom line is, Leticia, it's not really looking very good for you. Again, the Eastern District of Virginia coming out just today and issuing these subpoenas. So this is a very, very big deal. It's amazing to me because the media has been totally silent on all of this. You're not hearing a lot. She, on the other hand, is trying to defend herself here and there. She went on to some MSNBC friendly territory type places, including one podcast with the guy I keep saying who looks like Rachel Maddow. You can't really tell. Is it Rachel or is it Chris Hayes? In this case, it is actually Chris Hayes. And she can't answer these questions. Listen to this. She won't answer these questions other than to say she doesn't even think that they're going to get to first base. They've gotten to first base. Subpoenas are going out as we speak.
I will respond to these baseless allegations at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way. But I am 100% confident that it will not result in any criminal indictment or action against me, and that it is nothing more than a revenge tour, and that Donald Trump just ultimately got to the J's, and I was next.
The key allegation, again, it sounds like you don't want to address them here, but I'm just going to put it out so people understand that a property that was owned in Virginia, and a mortgage that you signed, if I'm not mistaken, for that property, that they say you falsely represented yourself as a resident of Virginia, and that was essentially amounts to mortgage fraud since you're a resident of New York. What is your response to that?
It's baseless. Everybody knows I'm a resident of New York, specifically Brooklyn. And again, we will respond at the appropriate time in the appropriate way to these baseless allegations. And some media outlets like the Daily News over the weekend has indicated as much.
That's all you want to say?
That's all that I'm going to say.
Yeah, because she can't say anything else, because she can't actually defend herself in this case. She's just like, oh, it's baseless allegations, baseless allegations. Well, why is it that they allegedly have a record of you saying that this was your primary residence in Virginia? Why do they have records of you being listed as the wife of your father? I mean, why is it that you're miscategorizing your brownstone in all of these cases? It just so happens that you get a better deal on the mortgage. Again, the very thing that she was trying to go after Donald Trump for. Except in his case, she couldn't actually even bring it into criminal court because, you know what? It was a private transaction between him and his banker. And the banker's the one that goes and does all the due diligence. And so it's the banker's problem, right? If he can't pay the loan back, as opposed to the federal government. I mean, she was actually risking taxpayer dollars in that case with her little transaction. She just doesn't seem to get it. And she keeps telling you it's all A-OK. It's just a clerical filing. I don't know. How do you have that many clerical filings, one after another, 3 in a row? I'm not buying it.
I have to ask you, I mean, there were reports today that the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into real estate transactions that you're involved with. I'm not validating that in any way, but I wanted to just ask you if you've received a formal notice of that at this point.
No, not at all. These allegations, Jen, are baseless. They have been discredited, refuted. There was a letter that was prepared by my attorney that was sent to Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General, And it's unfortunate that President Trump publicly attacked me a few days ago. And as a result of that, he telegraphed to the Department of Justice and to FBI that I should be targeted. You see, this is nothing more than an extension of his revenge, his retribution, and he finally got up to the J's. And so I stand prepared to respond to these baseless attacks with facts. And we look forward, obviously, to further discussions with the Department of Justice or any other individual who leaked this material.
Leaked this material? I mean, it's public information. Sorry, Letitia, you know, when you fill out a form, you got to try and fill it out correctly. You shouldn't be trying to defraud, if that is the case, the federal government. And her lawyer, by the way, we're going to get to that because she's charging taxpayers for the lawyer. The lawyer who actually used to work with Hunter Biden, Abby Lowell, charges a pretty penny, is saying this is just a whole bunch of clerical stuff. Except, of course, she signed it. And she's a lawyer. Like, shouldn't there even be like a higher standard? If you would, like, you know, maybe you don't know, and somebody tells you, oh, you'll get a better rate if you do this, and you could argue, oh, I didn't know, I was just naive, but even then it wouldn't be a defense. But in her case, you can't actually say I didn't know because she is a lawyer herself. So yeah, the lawyer's trying to say that this is just baseless and that it is all politically motivated, all just politics. And they're citing the fact that Donald Trump came out and talked about it. Of course, Donald Trump came out and talked about it because one of the reporters in the room asked him, but he covers himself actually pretty darn nicely. Take a listen.
I can say unrelated to that, she's a disaster for New York. She's a horrible, horrible human being.
Okay, he said unrelated to that. I think she's a disaster for New York. And watch how he also qualifies this. In other words, he doesn't like the woman. He clearly has no use for her. He clearly thinks she's a political animal and, as he goes on to say, a sick person. But it's not as though he's implicating somehow a political agenda that he has against her here. Listen.
And I think she's a total crook. There's no question about it. But that's just my opinion. Pam's going to have to do what she wants. She's a very bad person. She's a very, very bad person who campaigned solely on, I'm going to get Donald Trump over and over again. She's a sick person. But that has nothing to do with what Pam does. Pam is going to do what's right. She always does. I've known her a long time.
Yeah. Well, Pam's doing what's right. In other words, William Pulte, who's the head of the FHA, is saying, wait a second, we see all these media reports of Letitia James getting a better deal. That's not allowed. That's absolutely not allowed. And by the way, on top of it, you're an employee of the government and you're doing this, and you're an attorney. I mean, this is like triple not allowed. It's a triple decker, okay? Like not allowed, not allowed, not allowed. And for her to say, oh, he's just politically going after me. Again, I'll quote the lawyer who says, well, Donald Trump has said before, quote, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. I am your warrior. I am your justice. I am your retribution. Donald Trump said all these things. So then they equate that to mean, oh, well, then he's coming after her. Not that she did anything at all similar. Right? I mean, wasn't this the woman who actually went out and campaigned before she even saw anything, before she even had a crime to go after him with? And she didn't, by the way. She didn't have a crime. She insisted that she was politically going to go after him. This is what she ran her entire campaign on.
The President of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
This illegitimate president who sits in the White House. That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president.
Yeah. Okay, so she was going to go after him, and she did, and then she tried to take away Trump Tower. You remember it. We were living and breathing it during the time, but I'll take you down memory lane. ABC News, interestingly, whom she told she was going to confiscate his assets.
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Leticia.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
And somehow she got some totally political judge that was willing to go along with all of this. And the next thing you know, there's a $500 billion tab that Donald Trump somehow owes the state of New York for an alleged crime that never was actually a crime, but rather a private transaction. I mean, in her case, you got something here, okay? Pam Bondi definitely has something here. And there may be more, because New York itself, as a taxpayer in New York, the fact that she is taking your money to pay for the Hunter Biden lawyer to represent her, that's problematic in a personal transaction, because she was doing stuff that she may not ever have, should have been doing, period. We're going to get to that in a second, but first a quick shout out. You know, we're totally independent here on the Trish Regan Show, so we love our sponsors, including our friends over at American Heart for Gold. Gold back up today. We were just talking about gold actually with the head of the company there on yesterday's program. You know that I'm a big long-term believer in gold, and I believe it's a way of diversifying and kind of sort of hedging your bets, if you would. It's something that I do tend to buy whenever it goes down, and today it's up, so I'm sitting by the sidelines waiting and watching. You can buy gold too. I highly recommend our show sponsor, up to $15,000 in free silver. That's a big seller right there, because often silver tracks with gold prices, and there's other uses for silver, etc. Go check it out today. TrishLovesGold.com, 1-844-495-1115. Text Trish to 65532, guys. Letitia James is using New York taxpayer money to pay for her high-priced, fancy-schmancy former Hunter Biden attorney. Abby Lowell is the attorney she's using. By the way, in Abby's defense, Abby has also defended the Kushners, including Ivanka Trump Kushner. And so he has worked for both sides, but nonetheless, a very expensive attorney. So she's going for the best here. She's racking up the bills. And you know who's not happy? Taxpayers. New York Post had a big op-ed on this the other day. Nixon taxpayer-funded legal defense slush fund for Letitia James and any other state politician facing federal investigation. So in this case, you've got an attorney general that's being accused of personal crimes. In other words, when you go and you take out a loan for a home in Virginia and you allegedly say it is your personal residence, and then after the fact, you're getting called out on it, that's kind of a personal issue, right? So why would you be using taxpayer funds to defend yourself from that? That's what taxpayers are saying, like, hey, this is not fair. Like, this is something that she may have screwed up in her personal life, kind of like, you know, back in 1983 when she decided to sign a document saying that she was the wife of her father. That is something that would be a personal violation, right? So again, why would she be able to use taxpayer dollars to defend herself against that? I remember how they went crazy, oh my gosh, when Donald Trump was using campaign dollars to defend himself against Letitia James. Letitia's taking a step further. She's going for taxpayer money. I mean, this woman is unbelievable, right? So she's hired this high-priced attorney, Abby Lowell, commands a pretty penny, and then expects New York taxpayers to foot the bill because, as she told us, she somehow thinks that this is all just politically motivated, right? Then that's her defense. She's going to say this is political.
I have to ask you, I mean, there were reports today that the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into real estate transactions that you're involved with. I'm not validating that in any way, but I wanted to just ask you if you've received a formal notice of that at this point.
No, not at all. These allegations, Jen, are baseless. They have been discredited, refuted. There was a letter that was prepared by my attorney that was sent to Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General. And it's unfortunate that President Trump publicly attacked me a few days ago. And as a result of that, he telegraphed to the Department of Justice and to FBI that I should be targeted. You see, this is nothing more than an extension of his revenge, his retribution. And he finally got up to the J's. And so,
well, you know, maybe, Leticia, if you weren't out there buying homes and saying they were going to be your primary residence, again, I want to say that's what's being alleged. Let's get all the paperwork. This is why they're subpoenaing people, right? This is why there's the grand jury investigation, etc. If this is the case, then kind of that's your own problem, right? You are the one who sort of screwed up there. And I think that you should be responsible for the legal bills. I don't think this is a taxpayer issue. To get your lawyer to issue, this was something like 44 pages, by the way. You have Abby Lowell saying that this is nothing but a political witch hunt. Oh my gosh. I mean, again, the irony of everything is really just so darn incredible. In the meantime, Letitia James is also under fire at this moment because she's being accused of targeting small businesses. We know that she's going to target anybody she wants to target, right? That's the whole problem with having an attorney general that's a political animal instead of just a legal animal. In other words, do your job, lady. Stay in your lane, lady. Do not just try to attack people for political reasons. And the fear now in the state of New York is this is what she's doing. I get it. Remember when we said this at the time? This was effectively the danger with having an attorney general with such enormous scope that she could go after someone for what she went after Donald Trump for. And by the way, this has not come back from the appellate court yet, but I expect that it will. And when it does, you're going to see that they throw the whole thing out because they're going to say she shouldn't have done this. If you listen to, and you can go back and listen, we've played it extensively here on this show. If you listen to what the judges are saying, they can't understand how she has the legal authority to even be going after a private transaction. And they're worried that she has overstepped her bounds in massive ways. Well, this is what small businesses are now worried about because of a new kind of law that she has put in place. I want to take you over to the New York Post, actually, which has been all over this story. Of course, it's New York. And they're saying that her pro-consumer push that she has put forward is expected to spark legal shakedowns and boost greedy lawyers. Businesses are like, whoa, because it's one thing, right? You want to protect consumers, but you also have to remember to protect the business owners as well. And the fear with Letitia James is that she's doing anything she can for political reasons. If she thinks it's going to score her a political chip, then she's in the game. And that's what's so frightening and disheartening and disgusting, frankly, about one Letitia James. And we saw it in full view, did we not? And you know what? Now he's president of the United States. So good luck, honey bunny, right? As Mike Davis said, you might just find your fat, let's go with tush, in prison. All right, because this is a whole different Trump administration. Whole different administration. And those, what do they say? Those in glass houses should not throw stones. Oh, Letitia, you should have listened to that one a little bit more closely.